afternoon, everyone. I am so excited that you are here joining us for the Leadership Now series. And today our guest is Lance Wheeler. Before I jump in and introduce and get into his topic, for those of you who are new to this community, just a couple housekeeping items. If you're watching this on Facebook Live, I can't see your questions or comments. So if you just put your questions or comments there, we'll come back and answer it afterwards. If you want to be on this, on the webcast live, and you're here, if you have comments, put it in the chat. If you have questions for Lance, put it in the Q&A. Leadership Now, we started, for those of you who are new to this, and those of you who aren't, you're going to hear the same thing. So back in April, in the midst of everything that was changing, Lance and I were just talking about this, because I really wanted to look at, how do I breathe hope? How do I give hope? Because we know that hope breeds hope, right? Life breeds life. Ideas breed ideas. And in that time where everyone was just struggling and there was so much change, it was like, how do I create ideas, or people who have been through challenges, and how do they overcome them? So looking at thought leaders, mentors, teachers within our community. And so it has been going on since April, and it's been so fun because every week we have somebody different. We have somebody that has a lesson that, they're like us. They've been through things, yet learning from them. And I believe that we all have something that we can learn from each other, teach each other. And it inspires hope, right? In this crazy time. So Lance, and I'm going to pull this poll off so this is not in everyone's face. Lance Wheeler. So before I get into just who he is and what he's done, I met him in about 2005, 2006. I was working for another leadership company, and I was what they called a leadership training advisor, kind of like a coach. And I just remember when Lance came in and he went through the program, and then talking to him afterwards, you were just so hungry, like so hungry. It was just like, feed me. What else can I do? What else can I learn? How do I apply this? And, we all have a chance and a choice in life that when we're given an opportunity to learn, and there's two roads, right? We can go back to the way we've done things, or we can actually take it and say, today's a new day. I'm going to apply, whether it's one lesson, two lessons, whether you fall down, you get back up, fall down, get back up, you continue to move forward. And that's what you did. Like, you were just giddy. So I'm gonna read this just because there's so much here. So Lance Wheeler, you served 9 years in the United States Army as a U.S. Army Ranger. And, I was talking about this right before we got on live, is that I am just so honored. When I think about people in the military, and it goes back to when Edward Powers on here, when he said that under 1% of the people in the United States have actually enlisted in the military, and it's like 0.5% are active right now. And I am just so honored. Like, there's so much respect that I have for you, that you're willing to step up and to serve our country, because freedom doesn't come free. It comes with a price. And when you served, you were actually in live combat. You were in conflicts in Panama and Somalia. You were the recipient of a Bronze Star, Purple Heart, which, for those of you who do not know, and I had to research this, is that in order to get a Purple Heart, that means he was injured by an enemy. And he had 2 Combat Infantry Badges. He spent his life in service to others as a soldier, a firefighter, a paramedic, a safety professional. And that's when I met you. You were a safety professional in mining, local government, heavy civic construction, and insurance. You've been a trainer, a mentor, a teacher, a leader, and most of all, a student. You have an associate's in criminal justice, a bachelor in occupational health safety, and a master's in psychology. Like, holy cow, you are somebody who loves to learn. At the age of 50, not only did you become a grandpa, you decided that you were going to run a marathon, and then an ultra marathon. And then at the age of 52, you completed your first Ironman Triathlon. So that's never too late, right? Never too late.
Never.
Holy cow. So thank you for being here. I am just so honored. I'm so honored.
You're welcome. Thank you. I am equally honored. Like I said before we went live, um, this was something I never expected and never thought, and I'm just blessed and humbled that you invited me to come on and share my experience. That's amazing.
Well, it was after, and I always say there's no coincidences, right? And there's people that I'll look at and I'll say, I love for them to be a speaker. And I had this slot and I was just like, someone's going to show up. Like, I just know, like, someone has this message. And after my Whitehead, you go, it was so good. It reminds me of the 8 Bushido principles that I learned, as a ranger. And I went, bingo, let's go. So your topic, you talked about leading the way. I don't always know how I'm going to win. I just know that I'm not going to lose. And it was, lessons from Rangers. So what does that mean to you?
So, that's kind of been my mantra my entire life is it's you don't always know the outcome. You don't know how you're going to get there. And when you take that first step and you decide that this is the journey I'm going to be on, or this is the project I'm going to start, or this is the race I'm going to run, you you think about what's the end going to look like, or how am I going to get there? And for me, it's always been, I don't know what that path looks like. What I do know is that I'm going to be standing at the finish line at the end, period. And there might be unbelievable challenges in my way. I might fall down 100 times. At the end of the day, I'm going to make it across the finish line. And when I was in Ranger School, that's one of the things that really motivated all of us, is that falling down, getting back up, and helping the guy next to you. There was never quit attitude and a never quit mentality amongst everyone. It was it was never a word that was even part of our vocabulary. And so when you were pushed to your mental and physical limits, it was really then that you found exactly how far you could go. You might have thought before then that I can only do this, until you get to that point and realize I have more and I can go further. And so that's kind of been my life, is living outside of my comfort zone, finding those opportunities to push myself and really just challenge myself.
I have a saying, we don't know what we don't know. And it goes right along with that, right? We don't know how much more we have if we've never done it before. And in life, so many times we play it safe and we think we're given 100%. We think we're all in until something happens and adversity strikes. That's where the character is really uncovered and discovered, and to realize there's always another level. There's always more.
That's right.
So
Absolutely.
when we look at you joining the Ranger, 9 years, did you wake up one day, or were you, as a little boy, did you have people in your family that served? Did you know you wanted to be a service?
So I was the first and the only in my family to serve in the military. I was a junior in high school, and had talked with my folks about going to college, and I just didn't have a lot of direction in my life, and I knew that college just wasn't for me. I was going to go there and I was going to find a way to fail my way out of it. And so I was looking for something that would maybe give me some discipline and help me build the path. And I happened to walk by the Army recruiter one day in the halls of the high school, and I sat down and talked to him. And I said, "What's the toughest thing? What's the toughest thing that I can do?" And he said, "You could go infantry, and you could ask for the Ranger assessment and selection process option." And I said, "Okay, that's what I want to do." And so I joined as a junior in the delayed entry program, and I had my entire senior year to think about it. And when I graduated, I went off with this image of Soldier of Fortune magazine and all these cool posters and all this stuff. And what I found was that it wasn't anything like that at all. Um, it was about me finding out who I really was as a human being, as a man, um, finding out what I was made of and what I had to give to others. So
what 16, 17-year-old says, I need to find something that gives me discipline? Like who, when you talk about you being a student for life, like at the end of the day, you're a student. There's something special about a 16, 17-year-old that says, I need to figure out how to be more disciplined. Wow.
I looked back at high school and went, I didn't apply myself. I had so much more to give. And what really I think sunk into me was I needed somebody to push me and and help me become the better person that I knew I could be, but I wasn't going to do alone.
So did you plan to stay longer than 9 years? I mean, talk to me about the bronze heart or the bronze medal.
So I did. I planned on doing 20 years and maybe more. I was going to be in it for a career. I was going to get a retirement out of it, and then I was going to go off and do something else. And my first combat deployment to Panama is when I got the Purple Heart, and it was one of those things that you hear all these kind of glorious stories about Purple Hearts and people getting wounded in combat, and it really was nothing like that. I was wounded in a combat scenario, and I wasn't it wasn't as serious as it could have been, and so I pushed through until I could get to a medic and be treated, and then I pushed through for the rest of the mission until I got home and could get my injuries taken care of. That really never changed my trajectory. I still was going to be in for the 20 years plus. And then there came the deployment to Somalia, that started out really as a humanitarian mission, and it turned into this giant mess, in which we got a couple helicopters shot down. We lost quite a few people. 80 or 90 guys got injured, and we ended up we lost one of our pilots as a POW, became a POW, and it was that mission that really changed my thought process about the military and my path forward. And so when I came back home, I was due for reenlistment, and I kind of looked back at everything that I had been through, all the people that we had lost over the years, and not just lost in combat, but lost to suicide as well. And I thought, man, my upward mobility here is there's a path for me. I can continue to grow. I'm going to be doing the same thing that I'm doing today, just with a different rank. And eventually my numbers are going to be up. And so I chose to get out because there was this overwhelming feeling that I wasn't going to get out of my 20 years alive. So
that's what, life is worth living, and it's gratitude, right? And I've had a couple of people here from the service, and it really has inspired me and makes me think even more of the people that we have serving, and how thank you doesn't even do it justice. And we take freedom, and the people who haven't served, we take freedom just like it's our right, but it's people like men and women who've served alongside, that they've given us this right. And in the time of gratitude, just coming out of Thanksgiving, I just want to say thank you. Just thank you for who you are, for how you show up, for being that young kid that just said, I need some discipline, the one that can push alongside even being injured and figuring out the mission, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's not necessarily always about winning, but you're not going to lose. And when you love life so much, and when you're willing to sacrifice whatever to get there, and at the same time, it goes back into balance, right? It's saying it's time to do something else, still is moving, taking what you learned and now getting it to apply it, because civilian life is tough. And I've heard that so much from people, that the transition from service to civilian life, it you don't have the same support, you don't have the same experience from people. People don't even know what you've been through. So how did you keep yourself in a mindset of still continuing to push no matter what it takes?
Um, it was really tough when I first got out. I didn't have a lot of direction, and like you said, I didn't have a lot of support. I had grown up in an environment and really become a man in an environment where I knew that the person next to me had my back 100% of the time, and I never had to wonder, was he or she trained enough? Was he or she prepared? That was never a thought on my mind. And now I'm thrown into this world of, where do I go? What direction do I have? And I looked back at my time in the military and thought, what skills do I have? What do I have to offer the world? I really didn't learn any skills that could translate into civilian life. And so I kind of floated for a few months and wasn't sure what I wanted to do and how I was going to get there. And then, it was like almost like one day a light bulb went off. I woke up and I said, you know what? I have all kinds of skills to offer. I have leadership, commitment, teamwork, tenacity, brotherhood, all of these things that were built into me. And those would be a gift to anybody. And so, it just sort of lit a fire in me. And I said, I can do anything I want to do. Um, the transition was certainly tough. Once you realize that you've got more in you than you ever believed, then the transition becomes easy.
And that's the key, right? It's belief. You have to know. It's the wake up, because just, in life in general, there's so many times people, we ask ourselves, do I have what it takes? Well, who am I? What skills, what gifts, what talents do I have to offer? And there's so much of the imposter syndrome that lies within all of us, going, well, what if they uncover and they discover that I really don't have it? But when you look at those core characteristics, Lance, that's what you get to build on. I read something that said, it was a book, and it was saying, not, the guy was talking about Martin Luther King, right? Well, what would Martin Luther King do? The book is called Dear Martin. I love it. And he said, it's not what Martin Luther King would do, it's how he would live. And it goes back into, we get to live authentically to who we are. And when we know what we stand for, then the rest becomes easy.
Absolutely. When you know who you are and you know what you have to offer others, your life becomes easy. And it really is, goes back to what your last guest talked about last week. When you find your passion, you never have to work another day in your life, because it's just, it's inside of you. It's who you are, and it's what you become.
So going into that, knowing who you are, what were the greatest lessons that the military taught you?
The sense of self, number one, the sense of something larger than myself. When I was, let me back up a little bit. When I was in Ranger school, not everyone gets selected to be in a Ranger battalion. A lot of people pass the course and they get their tab and they go back to their unit. The people who get selected to be in a Ranger battalion are truly those people who, when they're pushed to their limits and they have nothing left to give, instead of getting up and helping themselves, they get up and help the guy next to them. And it was that lesson that has really taken me everywhere that I've ever wanted to be in my life, that this journey that we are all on is not about me. It's about what I have to give to everyone else. Because when I build that team of leaders around me, or that group of people that I know I can really trust, I can go so far. So that was probably the biggest lesson that I got out of the military.
It's the selflessness.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So talk to me about you said it was the Ranger Corps, right? But it really goes into like the Bushido code. What were some of the core philosophies that they taught you?
So really it boils down to essentially what the Bushido principles are: doing the right thing all the time, even when no one's looking. That integrity, that sense of this is about my reputation and who I am. It's being righteous, knowing that what you say is your bond, and you're going to do that regardless of what the outcome is, or what do I want to say? I just lost the word. I knew what I was going to say, but regardless of anything, right? And then all of that really is tempered with compassion, realizing that other people are struggling too, and that you need to be aware of what everyone else is going through, what their struggles and difficulties are, how you can affect them, how you can help them, build them up. And then the respect portion is a huge one as well. Not only being able to respect yourself, but being able to respect the power that you've been given. You can have this tremendous amount of power, and you can use it for good, or you can use it for bad. And so when you've been given that ability to impact others' lives and have that influence and use it for the right thing, it gives you this sense inside that, man, I have literally changed the world.
No armor on your back.
That's
Always
right.
moving in
That's
that
right.
forward
Always
direction.
moving forward. Yep.
I'm listening to you talk, and I think about the state of the world right now. And if we could all live those principles, what a different world we would have.
Yeah, I think about that all the time, and it's one of the things that I go back to. I write those principles down, and I keep them, on my desk and in my folder when I go somewhere. We all struggle with that. We all are faced with those times when it's so much easier to lash out, to respond the way that I shouldn't respond. I'm not above it. I struggle with those things too. And so when I can go back and look at those and say, hey, take a breath, think about what, this person is going through. How can you help them be a better person? Or are you really living the principles of doing what you say you're going to do, and doing the right thing even when no one's looking? It really helps center me and ground me and keep me on that path.
It's empathy, right? It's the willingness, the ability to actually put ourselves in someone else's shoes, and we only see what we look for. And knowing that this world, one of the gifts is that we're unique, that we have freedom, and the curse is that we're unique and we have freedom. And it's to recognize, and this is kind of my soapbox, is that we don't have the right to make other people wrong. We are supposed to stand in what we know is our truth and what's important, and to live by the principles that we know are true, but never to make someone else wrong, because they have a different filter, they have different experiences. And when we seek to understand, we can come alongside people, not push them off to the side.
Absolutely. I've had a lot of discussions over the years with people who don't agree with me. They have a completely different mindset, completely different opinion. And again, it's really easy to say, you're wrong and I'm right. It's much harder, but more gratifying to say, I want to understand where you're coming from. Where did you get that opinion? And why do you believe that? And when you sit down with people and you truly listen to understand, what you find is at the end of the day, you both really want the same thing. You might have a different way of looking at it, but we all want the same things. And so I'm okay with people that don't agree with me. I have no problem with that. And I love a good, healthy debate, as long as, again, it's not about making one person wrong and one person right. Where do we come together on this, and what do we have in common?
So true. So criminal justice, Why did you go get your associate in that? Did you want to be an attorney?
No, I wanted to be a cop.
Ah,
So I got out of the military, and by then I was ready for college, and I said, so what can I do? I think I'll go be a cop. And so I went to school, got a degree in criminal justice with a discipline in law enforcement, and never worked a day in law enforcement in my life. So I've got that education. It was fantastic. I'm glad I did it. I've never worked a day of law enforcement in my life.
so then you just, for someone who didn't want to go to college, now it's just this hunger to learn, right? It's the we have a saying in driven, it's about the white belt, right? It's we have a Bushido path that people go on, but the very end of it is being so committed to the journey of your life that you're never done learning. So you
That's right.
have this, and you take this, and you take a little bit of this, and now you have, jumping into where you're at now. Your granddaughter is 4.5, and at 50 years old, not only did you become a grandpa, you decided you're going to run your first marathon, ultra marathon, and then the Ironman Triathlon. So did you always want to do that? Or are you just like hungry and how can I get more disciplined?
I never wanted to do that. In a Ranger battalion, we ran 5 miles a day, every day, 7 days a week for my entire career. I swore when I got out of the military, I would never run again a day in my life. It was more, I think, because it was something we had to do, not something we wanted to do. And so, I was sitting around one day and kind of looking at my life and doing that refocus. Where am I at? Where do I want to go? And I said, man, I've put on a lot of weight, and I'm kind of feeling unhealthy, and I'm really sedentary. What can I do to improve that? And so, I started doing some cardio, and I started running. And then one day that led to a 5K, and then a 10K, and then a half marathon. And then at age 50, I ran my first full marathon and fell in love with it, and found out that this running thing, this being active thing, when it was something I wanted to do, it was exhilarating, and it really pumped me up. It allowed me to lose myself in my own thoughts, to figure some stuff out, to hash through the troubles of the day, and just release those endorphins so that I could be a better person that day.
So it became very therapeutic for you.
It did very much.
So then why the Ironman Triathlon?
Um, so about 4 years ago, I attended I can't remember what the name of it was, but it was it was kind of a nighttime storytelling seminar with Marcus Luttrell, David Goggins, Taya Kyle, and one other gentleman. And they just talked about their time in the military, and the struggles that they had faced during and after. And David Goggins really spoke to me. And he's been kind of that person that's always in the back of my head telling me, yeah, you fell down. Yeah, your knees are bloodied, but get back up and do it again. And so I thought, if a guy like David Goggins, who was 100 pounds overweight and did nothing but lift weights and eat donuts all day long, if he could go out and run an ultra marathon and do an Ironman, so could I. And so I just decided one day this is what I was going to do. And so I started training, and I finished. And what was really cool about it was not only did I finish, but I finished right next to an 83-year-old nun who had finished her 5th Ironman that day. And I thought, okay, so I thought it was pretty cool that I did it at 53. This lady, she just blows me out of the water. And this is number 5 for her. So this is pretty amazing.
So who's your role model and mentor?
It really is it's that David Goggins. He's the guy that I listen to, that I pay attention to, that I read everything that he's got. I follow his podcasts. because he has that never quit mentality. There is nothing standing in your way that you can't overcome. It's all about what you believe and seeing the end.
You know, as you're talking, that quote by John Quincy Adams pops up in my mind. If your actions inspire others to learn more, be more, do more, dream more, then you are a leader. And I really believe that we all have that ability. We all lead people. We all influence, because leadership is really about influence. And for people who are having, tough times, and we fall down and our knees are bloody, it's when we get to plug into people who influence us. And it goes back to, it's a decision. And I love what you said. I said, as a ranger, I'll never run again. And yet it's because when we have a choice to do something, when we wake up and say, wait a minute, I'm not happy with where I am. But if we look back in our life at the lessons along the way, there's always amazing tools that have showed us how to hit success. And when it's our choice and we say, it's more painful to stay where we're at now than actually do the work to move on, that's where change happens. And so people
Absolutely.
like, even like I'm listening to you, and like, you inspire me. You always have. And it's been, you and I were talking, it's been like 10 years since we've actually seen each other and talked to each other. And I'm just, we're right back in that groove. And I always remember, Lance, that your heart and the hunger that you have to be better is just, that's part of your character. It's always learning, it's always growing. It's not the ego. I mean, sure, we all make mistakes, but it's this humble and hungry mindset.
Yeah. I get up every day with one thought. Am I going to be the best version of myself that I can today? And then when I go to bed at night, I reevaluate, was I the best version of the person I know I can be? And when I do that every day, it really changes what what I want to go for, who I want to be, how I want to show up in my life, who I'm going to be to my granddaughter, to my wife, to my daughters, to my friends, my coworkers. And you talked earlier about, we're all leaders to someone. I will never forget when I first started running. I was extremely overweight. I had done this before in my life, and I was just appalled at who I had become. And I couldn't run to the end of the block without just almost wanting to die. And so I set a goal in mind and said, I'm going to run 100 steps. And then I'm going to run 100 steps the next day and the next day and the next day until I can run 105. And I those little tiny achievable goals. And one day when I was walking back home, some lady stopped and said, "Hey, I've seen you running out of the neighborhood now for the last 5 or 6 months, and you're as overweight as I am." And I never thought that I could lose the weight and lead a healthier lifestyle. And then I saw you. And so I made the choice to do something for my life. And I thought, just like you said, we're leaders to somebody, even if we don't realize it. Our actions matter, and other people are watching.
I love it. But it's so true. People are watching us. Everywhere people are watching us, whether it's our children, whether it's our grandchildren, whether it's the cashier at the grocery store, whether it's our neighbors. How we show up, it matters. Everything we do, there's a ripple effect. Everything we do impacts the same thing. So when you look at just your life over general, I mean, there's so much. Like, I knew you in the safety realm, and I know you're still back in the safety. You went into the thinking about you're going to be a cop. And why did you choose safety, health and safety?
um I was working in the mining industry just as an equipment operator, and because of my time as a firefighter and paramedic, I always had this, in my time in the military, I've always had this desire to serve others. I've always wanted to do something for someone else. And I saw a role in safety that was entry level, that would allow me to both increase my knowledge base, but then also have an effect on everyone else at the company that I was working. And so I chose safety for that reason, because it falls right in line with who I want to be. I want to be there for other people. I want to have a positive impact on them. If there's something that I can do to make their life better, keep them from getting hurt, send them home in better shape than when they came to work, then I want to be a part of that. And so safety's really been it's been that awesome career choice for me for the last 20 years, knowing that I've had an impact on someone else and I've been able to help make their journey that much better.
Everything that you've talked about and just connecting all the dots, your whole life has been in service for others, service to others, whether it's, serving the country, serving the men and women next to you, firefighter, paramedic, safety. You finally took care of yourself. So there's so many of us that are high ultras. We give, we give to everyone else, and we don't take care of ourselves. And the light switch moment when you woke up and said, I'm overweight and it's time that I take back my life, it's because you matter. And I always say we can't give what we don't have. We can't give when our tank is so empty. And for you it's a different season in life, right? It's connecting the dots because you give so much. Your heart is so just open to just building people up. You said, wait a minute, I got to do this for me. And if we could live that way, Lance, if all of us could say, wait a second, I matter. What am I putting into my body? What am I doing today to show up? Am I proud of the man or woman I am? When you go to bed, you look in the mirror and wake up in the morning, who do I want to be today? If we all measured ourselves that way and truly live from integrity, it's one thing to say it and it's another thing to do it.
Absolutely. Yes. And that's something a lot of people miss, is that you can give to others for only so long until you stop and take care of yourself. And if you want to be around for the next 50, 60, 80, 100 years, whatever that is, and you want to continue to give to others, you have to take care of yourself, make sure that you're as effective as you possibly can be. And that you wake up like that every day and realize that this goes back to something you and I talked about years and years ago. And I don't know if you remember, but I do. And it had an amazing impact on me. You introduced me to Natasha Bedingfield's song.
Unwritten.
Yes. And you talked about how, every day was a blank page and you get to fill it with whatever you want, good or bad. That's up to you. And so I have books completely full. I keep a book by my nightstand, and that's what I do. Is I look at that blank page every day and I say, how am I going to fill this with all of the positive things that I can for myself and for others? And when I go back and read through some of those, there are amazing lessons in there, both good and not so good, but lessons that help me with tomorrow's journey and the next week's journey.
Remember that song? That was my mantra to get me through some really tough times in life.
Yes. Yeah. And every time it comes on the radio or I hear it, it takes me back. And I think you're right. Whatever happened yesterday is gone.
Yeah.
Today is what matters. And what I'm doing right now and how I can have an impact on someone else, how I can make their life better.
So what words of advice or wisdom could you give to people? Because you've been through so many ups and downs, and there are people who are struggling, and it's hard for them to get out of bed, and it's hard for them to put the next foot in front of the other. They might be on the ground with bloody knees right now going, I can't do this. What could you say to them?
Really for me, it's that never quit mentality. It's realizing that this won't last forever. I have been in places in my life that were so unbelievably dark. I wasn't sure there was going to be a tomorrow. What I know now is that when I took that next step, it put me closer to the dawn. And so realizing that what's going on in your life right now and how tough things seem are only temporary. And if you just make the choice to say, I'm going to take one more step, it doesn't have to be about what am I doing next week or how I'm going to get through the next year, or how I'm going to end this pandemic. It's how am I going to take the next step? And when I take that step, how am I going to take the next step? And eventually the dawn comes and things are better. So, pain's temporary.
The sun will come out tomorrow.
That's right. It absolutely will. Absolutely will.
Well, and it's so hard, just because where people are and they don't see the sun, they don't see hope right now. And what you're saying is, if people can just, what the gratitude, right? Get up. I'm breathing. I had a good night's sleep, or maybe I didn't have a good night's sleep, but I was able to rest. I have a warm jacket. I have a blanket. I have food to put in my belly. And it's the little tiny things. And if we can celebrate the little tiny things, if we can focus on what we can control and just do that, it's the 100 steps and the 100 steps and the 100 steps. You know what I love what you said? A lot of times people say I go 100 steps and the next day it's 101. It's the 1% rule. But you focused on the 100 steps consistently until you could do 105. And I really believe a lot of times that people start focusing on where they want to go and they forget to just embrace the journey and what they can do right now. And it puts them back in the spiral of, see, I can't get up off the floor, I can't stop bleeding.
I think that's one of the things that derails so many people in both their fitness journeys and their professional journeys is they truly believe that what I did today, I have to surpass tomorrow. And for me, at least, it's not about that. It's about getting really good at this. And then when I'm really good at this, I can add some more on. And when you take those small steps, I will never forget when I was training for my Ironman, about halfway through my training, I kept looking at that end goal of, 2.5-mile swim, 112-mile bike ride, and a full marathon. Oh my gosh, that is unbelievable. How am I going to do that? And there was a point in time for about 2 months that I literally wanted to quit every day because I got into this slump of, I'm just not getting any better. And I don't know that I'm going to be able to do this. And then one day, I don't know what happened, but physically I was better than I was the day before. And suddenly I refocused and said, I got to stop thinking about the end. If I trust in the training and I trust in myself, I'll get to the end. I can't focus on what I can't control, which is 6 months from now. I've got to focus on today and what I can have control over today.
It's trusting the process.
Absolutely.
Totally trusting the process. Yep. So I'm going to open up. If anyone has any questions for Lance, would you put that either in the chat or the Q&A so I can ask him? Michelle was like, so many truths. Keep filling up our personal tanks. Keep giving. So true. So when you were talking about wanting to give up, what kept you going? Because we talk about the pain, right? And your why has to be so much stronger than the end result to continue to go. So in the moments of wanting to quit, did you ever pause?
I did. About a month into my slump, in my training slump, and I said, I don't know that this is a goal I want to achieve anymore. And so I came home that night, and I actually have a personal relationship with David Goggins, and he's the person that I can go to and say, I need you to kick me in the butt because I'm not a bad place right now. And so I reached out to him and said, I think I've changed my mind. I'm going to do something different. And he said, Lance, if you quit, you're going to be just like everybody else. Is that where you want to be? And I thought about that for about 2 days. And I thought, no, I don't. I did this for myself, not for anyone else. And I don't want to be that person. So I'm not going to quit. It's going to be tough. I also know I can get through it. And so that's what really, spurred me on to get out of that moment of pause and continue.
But that's the power of a mentor, a power of a support structure, because we rise or fall to the level of the people that we surround ourselves with. And it's people who are willing to really be honest, right? It's the open, honest conversation where you go to people and you're like, this isn't working. Like I'm stuck. There's one thing to actually admit it. A lot of times people just put it in the back of our minds. We don't say anything when we just quit. We're not going to own it to anyone. But when you really have a strong support structure, a strong mentor that you can be you and have those tough conversations, that's what helps us move forward. And I think about the saying, I think it was last week, where we're talking about the Marines. They're having just that drive, that grit, just who they are when they're in the Marine, like they're just badasses, right? And when they leave, the general was saying 99% of them actually stop. Like they don't live what they were taught. And it's because of their support structure. And it just reminds me of the crab in the pot, right? The boiling water. It's whatever, when people are pulling you down or lifting you up, we rise or fall to the level of the people that we surround ourselves with. And when we influence other people and we call them on their BS and just say, what are you doing? Did you wake up to be a quitter today? If you are, then you're like doing what most people do all the time. In order to get to where we want to go, we have to be willing to do what others are not.
And you said one thing that really struck a chord with me as well. And I honestly didn't even think about it until just this minute. When you say out loud, I'm going to quit or I'm going to forego this, there's something different that happens in your brain than if you just keep it a secret and you don't say it out loud. It's much easier to just say, yeah, you kind of say it in your head that, well, I'm going to do something different. But when you stand there and you actually say it out loud, I'm done with this, I'm going to quit, man, that really resonates. And I know that my conversation with David and then saying it out loud to someone else is really what woke me up.
So who is someone that you get to support and mentor? Because your actions are inspiring other people.
For me, I pour myself into my granddaughter and my kids. I want them to be the best versions of themselves that they can be. And I want them to know that no matter what the odds are against them, they can do anything that they set their minds to. And so I really work hard to inspire them. I work to take steps every day so that when they look at me, they have that role model, that someone to look up to and say, I want to be like him.
If your actions inspire others to dream more, to do more, to be more, to learn more, you're a leader.
Yeah.
I'm so honored to know you. Oh my goodness. It's amazing how, people in our lives, it could be a 10-year gap and all of a sudden go right back into the same conversations that we had 10 years ago differently. Just the maturity, the wisdom, the growth is so inspiring. I remember when you were raising your two daughters as a single dad going, oh my gosh, am I doing this right? To now saying, I want to be, but you always did want to be the best father. And to have that little granddaughter now that you get to pour into, they teach us to be even better within the business. Like it starts at the home. It starts within our personal life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I have to reciprocate as well, because you are really the one who's been kind of that guiding light for me throughout the last 15 years. You were the first contact I had when I started this leadership journey that I'm on now. And I follow you on Facebook. I watch your emails. It's those little nuggets that I write down and I pay attention to and I use in my daily life. So you are also a leader to me because you inspire me to be better. And when I'm having those moments, and this is the honest truth, when I have those moments where I'm I'm going after somebody, I'm wanting to make them wrong, and I feel like arguing, I think, what would Mary think of this? I do, I really do. And it refocuses me. So it's been an honor knowing you, and I'm blessed to have you in my life, because you've made me a better leader than I could have ever made myself.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
And it's the pay it forward, and it's thank you. And I'm sitting there listening back, and it's like you're feeding me back, and that's what true friendship and support is.
Absolutely.
It's not one way.
If we can just give a little bit to someone else, that giver's gain thing has always resonated with me. When I give to somebody else, I get so much more in return. I am a better person because of it. And so it's just it's an amazing feeling. And I go back to one of the sayings that I heard when you and I were together back at the other leadership places. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, bring your team. Yeah. And that's it. That's what it's all about.
Dino Polini used to say that. It's that African proverb, and it's so true. If we want to go fast, we go by ourselves. We leave people behind, just like it's just me.
That's right.
But we can't do life alone. We're not meant to do life alone. We're meant to do it with other people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's what life's all about, really, is just those other folks in our lives, that we're not always going to be the number one, the best at everything 100% of the time. There are going to be times that we need people to support us and prop us up as well. Yeah.
So what's your next step? So you just did your Ironman. What's your next goal?
So my next goal is to complete another Ironman and do it in less time than I did the last. And then after that, I want to get my granddaughter involved. She's just getting ready to turn 5, and I want to make her a runner as well. And I want her to grow up like that. So those are my next steps.
That's awesome. Well, I have no doubt in my mind that Grandpa's going to do that. And to be able to run with you're going to be like the 83-year-old woman right now. Come on, honey, you got this. Let's go. This isn't just my 5th one. This is my 10th one. Oh.
Yep.
Well, I just want to thank everyone for being on here. Hold on one second. Michelle says, I am a liaison within the military community, helping combat veterans and Gold Star families with benefits, and I'd like to grow that to help more families more efficiently. I work directly with the VA, SSI, immigration, anything pertaining to those who have served. I'd love to connect with you as soon as possible. I'm going to connect the two of you.
Yes, I would love that as well. Veterans causes are always near and dear to my heart, and they are a huge part of my life. So.
Excellent. So I'll make sure I connect the two of you.
Awesome. That's great.
Well, have an amazing rest of your day. Lance, it's been such an honor, my friend. And we're going to do this a lot sooner than 10 years.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, everyone, for being on here. And next week we have the week off, but we will be back on here in 2 weeks with Coach Eric Bell from TCU Women's Soccer, who just won their regional, first time ever in TCU's history. So he'll be on here. All right. See y'all.